Hello there, good time crew. Today I'm going to teach you how to spice up your Sur-Ron X e-bike with a custom Thrill Seeker seat cover. Let's get right on into it. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is take this tiny little screwdriver here and pop out some rivets. First one's going to be right here. What you want to do is just get a small screwdriver into that space, wiggle it in, and slowly pry it out. Once it's about halfway, you can go ahead and grab it with your fingers, pop it out, looks like that. That's one of 8 of these rivets, so there's 4 on each side. You have 1, 2, 3, and there's one right up inside here. You can see it over here on this side. Make sure when you're popping the rivets out that you get both of these pieces out. This one actually slides into this one like this. And some of them will come out together, but some of them you need to make sure that you get both pieces out. Don't lose them, or else your stuff will come loose. Now that you've got all those rivets out, go ahead and just grab that plastic piece. It'll pop off nice and easy. Set it aside. We're gonna grab our handy dandy 10mm. We're gonna pop these 2 bolts and these 2 bolts off, and that will allow you to remove this full seat. Now that we've got these bolts out, we're gonna pop off this rear fender. Grab right here on this plastic piece and pull it around these bolts. And the next thing you're gonna do is push on this back fender while you're pulling here and unhook it from these 2 tabs. Whoa, caboodles. Sometimes it gets a little rowdy in there. And your seat is ready to come off, ladies and gentlemen. Now that we got the stock seat off, it's time to grab a flathead screwdriver and pop these staples out. And now that all the staples are out, let's pop this cover off. To install your seat cover, you're gonna need a pneumatic air staple gun plugged into an air compressor at about 80 to 90 PSI. We use 1/4" staples. It's the perfect length to get the cover installed without shooting through the plastic and into your foam or into your fingers. It hurts. Don't do it. Anyways, here we are plugged in. We're at about 85 PSI on our air compressor. We're gonna throw the fresh seat cover over the top of the foam and we're gonna line it up. So it'll look like this from the underside. This is the pieces that you're gonna wanna take to wrap around, and we're gonna put staples in. First step, line up the front and make sure this seam right here is centered on the seat. You're gonna bring it around and hold it tight with one hand while you grab the staple gun with your other hand. And if you want a helping hand, I would ask a friend. If not, do it yourself. Either way, one staple right there on the seam to hold that front piece in place. Next step is we're gonna pull it to the back, and you're gonna line up these seams on the seat kind of like this. And you're gonna stand and make sure that when you wrap it around, the seams are even on the seat because you don't want it to get crooked. Also, while you're doing this, you're gonna pull a little bit of tension to the back so that there's a little bit of flex, but not too tight to where it's making the ribs curve. But you wanna pull it tight enough so that it won't wrinkle in the middle when you finish installing. So pull snug to the back, line it up and get it nice and centered, and I'll shoot about 1 to 2 staples into the back. Hold it with one hand, go one right in the middle, and then I'll push just a little bit, shoot one, and I'm gonna shoot a third. Just to secure that this thing's even on both sides. I have it where I like it. So we're doing the install on the Sur-Ron e-bike right now. These tips can be applied to any seat cover install, any moto bike or e-bike. The next thing we're gonna do after we have the front and the back secured with a few staples is we're gonna go to the center of the seat cover and we're gonna line that up so we make sure that's not crooked. We're gonna push down the material and roll it down the edges. Use some tension, get it straightened how you want it, and we're gonna do one set at a time. Flip the seat over, grab your staple gun, and you're gonna shoot one staple on each side. So we have your staple there. Now we're gonna flip it over again, work that tension out to get the wrinkles out of the seat cover. flip it over. You're gonna want it right in line with where that other staple is there, but on this side. And you also wanna make sure you have a similar amount of fabric. If you have way more fabric over here or way more fabric over here, that means your seat cover is probably lopsided and maybe you should remove some staples and straighten it out. So now that I have these nice and even, I'm gonna shoot one staple here, and that will secure the seat cover so that you're nice and straight in the front, up here, the back, and the sides. So now what we're gonna do is take our thumbs and push forward into the side, all this side material, and we're gonna fill in this part here and this part here with staples. So what I like to do is I like to push as much material to the front as I can without wrinkling it. We'll flip it over and we'll put a couple more staples in this front section. And as you're doing this, you kind of use your thumbs and your palms to work the material out and work the wrinkles out, and do about 1 to 2 staples every inch or so, getting all the wrinkles out as you're going. It's important to check as you go the top section to make sure you're not off-centered as you're going down the line, because you may need to pop out a couple or a few staples if you've realized that you've made a mistake. If you do need to remove a couple of staples, make sure that you're very careful when removing them, that you don't put large holes into the fabric, because you're gonna wanna reuse that. And the more holes that you put in the fabric, the weaker it's gonna be. So now to get the small wrinkles out of the fabric up here, I'm just gonna lightly push the fabric down here and kind of roll the extra fabric down the side and up over the edge and hold it tight as you put the staples in. And that's important to make sure that that top section doesn't get wrinkly when you're installing it. If you get a couple of sections on the tight corner here, like this, it's okay to shoot a second row of staples to hold that down. Just try to stay away from shooting staples up in this area and try to keep them lower with the extra fabric that's provided for installing. So now we're about at our halfway point on the seat. We're gonna start working the wrinkles out the back section of the seat to get these little guys out here. So starting from the center, you start pushing down each side and kind of back as you work the material down. Make sure you're even on both sides again, as always, and flip it over. And one side at a time, we're just gonna keep working our way down the back side and shoot a couple to a few on each side just to keep it secure while you're working out those wrinkles and working your way down. So you wanna get this extra fabric out right here by rolling it back, pulling each seam back, and then wrapping it over as tight as you can and getting a staple in there. You're gonna do that on both sides. So now you'll have these little bits of extra fabric and you wanna make sure you get them over the edges without wrinkles. So this means shooting staples a little bit closer together down here at the bottom. And I'll show you how we're gonna do that on this side here. So we're gonna pull over. Come down as close as you can to that next staple without shooting on top of it. And get that there so that this little wrinkle is okay, but you don't want it visible on the seat from the outside. We're gonna do the same thing with this one. We're gonna push this wrinkle down. Get the gun down there as close as you can to each of these staples here. And put one right there. If you have this little bit of extra fabric, again, it's fine. If you're worried about it kind of rolling over, if it's a lot of extra fabric, don't be afraid to shoot an extra staple or two right here to secure this. So you want to shoot with an angle down at the center of the seat as much as possible. And now we're going to do the other side. So that we're going to roll this wrinkle of fabric over. We're going to push it down with our thumb with this hand. Follow it with the staple gun, apply a good amount of pressure, and shoot that staple in there. We have one more spot just here. Roll that wrinkle down, and one staple in there. Now that we have all the staples in here, I like to take a little X-Acto knife and trim the extra fabric from these areas here, which you need when you're installing it, but you don't want them to be in the way of these tabs here because that is what you're gonna hook your rear fender into when you're reinstalling the seat on the bike. So we're gonna take this little X-Acto knife and safely cut a little trim of fabric to go around those tabs and just get a little closer to the staples. And of course, you don't want to cut inside the staple line. You only want to cut the extra fabric beyond what you've stapled. Now, to put this back fender back on, you're going to line up these thread into these holes and push the fender to clip into those little clips right there. Once you're in, flip the seat over, it's time to throw it on. So you want to line up these two threaded pieces with these two holes, and these threaded pieces with these holes. So as you're lining up these bolt holes, you have to pull the fender piece down to clear this because it sits on the other side of the frame mount. And that is how it properly mounts. Now you're able to take the nut and washer and secure the fender and the seat to the frame. Time to get this under piece fitted and reinstalled with the rivets. Should sit just like that. Grab our rivets. So here's your 2-piece rivet. This is how it works. This piece goes in first, with this side into the hole. You can feel that it popped into the right place by the fact that it slightly secured this from falling out. Once you've got that one in, go ahead and put this little piece right into it, and that's what tightens it. And that's how you successfully install a Sur-Ron X e-bike seat cover. Take care, have fun out there.